Good morning, fellow motorcycle riders and motorcycle riding enthusiasts. This is Eddie Sprouse. Some of you know me and know that I am an avid motorcycle rider. Have been for several years, and since about 2013 or so, I've led many different motorcycle riding groups and participated in different motorcycle riding clubs and events. And I was just wanting to make this video as more of a suggestion. If you're interested in leading motorcycle rides, whether it be just with a small group of friends or with a local group, some things that you might want to think about. So this just comes from my own personal experience. It's by no means is this an exhaustive list of things to consider when you're leading motorcycle rides, but just a few things you might want to just jot down. First, I would say that the number one thing that you should be concerned with is group ride safety. So you want to make sure that whatever you're planning is a safe adventure for everyone involved, that everybody gets back home safely, that you choose a route that's appropriate for the people you're riding with. Those are real important things. As much as you can, if you're planning a ride, it might be good to go ahead and take that ride yourself and just check out the road conditions at least a few days before. And I know that can change on a daily basis. It can be kind of hard to do depending on how long your ride is. But if it's a local ride, it's going to be maybe an hour or two from your home and back. It might be worth it to go ahead and take that ride yourself just to kind of see how things are. But again, like I say, that's not always practical. But again, safety should be your primary concern. I think communicating about safety should be a primary concern. When we meet with our groups, I tell people, look, we're not going to have any foolishness, no wheelies, no stunt riding, nothing dangerous. And if you do something dangerous or do something stupid, it's probably the last time you're going to ride with me. Just not going to let that kind of thing go on. So you need to set the expectations before the ride. You need to communicate with the people on the ride about safety signals, like the signal for, you've tapped the top of your head. These arm signals indicate to the people behind you that there's something coming up, usually a bicyclist or someone walking on the road, that kind of thing. This is slow down, and this is, speed up, and this is single file and double file and things like that. So those communications are important. Also, if you kick out a leg, that indicates to other riders that there's an obstruction on the road to the left or right of your bike, just to let people know what's coming up. And if you're in a ride, you should know some of the basic hand signals, and if you see someone in front of you give some kind of a signal or warning, you need to pass that on to the people behind you. Also encourage riders to stagger always. So, we're not riding one right behind the other like this. We're offset, and we're a couple of bike lengths between each other so that there's time to stop safely. And you want to communicate that to riders because not everybody understands staggering. I've seen so many people that actually lead rides that themselves, they won't even stay in the same area of the lane. So the people behind them doesn't know how to stagger properly because the ride leader is basically clueless as far as that goes. So that needs to be something that's a concern. And it should be communicated to people the day of the ride. And I think some of the other things that you need to consider if you're leading rides is your pace. And I talk to the riders that are with me. I kind of get a feel for what they're comfortable with. Normally you want to obey all traffic signs and laws and things like that, but it might be the occasion that you ride 5, maybe even 10 miles over the speed limit at times. You don't want that to be your go-to thing, but you need to take the temperature of the group and find out what people are comfortable with. If you've got people that want to ride faster, then maybe you need to put them to the front and even in front of you if you're leading the ride and say, hey, look, here's the route we're taking. Here's where we're going to be at a certain time. You guys go ahead and we'll meet up with you there. The last thing you want to do as a ride leader is to try to encourage the people behind you to keep up and to ride at your pace, because that can get very dangerous. There's something called the accordion accordion effect when you're riding, that to stay up with the rider that's in front of you, even if they're doing the speed limit, you're going to feel yourself having to go past the speed limit just to keep up. So a ride leader needs to keep that in mind. They don't need to get lost listening to their music and, you know, just enjoying the day and forget about those people behind them, because no matter what you say, when you're leading a ride, people are going to want to keep up with you. So you need to keep that in mind. If you don't want to do that, then leading rides is probably not for you. If you want to ride at your own pace and it's a quicker pace, then you don't need to be the ride leader. Maybe you need to be part of that group that just goes on ahead. But you need to consider the people that are riding with you. Not only do you need to consider the speed at which you're riding and the pace that you're setting, but you also need to be considerate of, you know, the fuel capacity. That's a big thing. So not everybody that's going to ride with you is going to have the same fuel capacity. My bike will hold a little over 6 gallons, my Goldwing. My V-Strom will hold about 5 gallons of fuel. And I can go, the V-Strom will go about 180 miles between fuel ups. The Goldwing will go 230 plus miles between fuel ups. Not everybody can do that. Some people have these little peanut tanks that hold 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of fuel, and they may only be able to go a little over 100 miles. So before you even set out to announce that you're going to lead a ride, you need to look at the maps and you need to see where the fuel stops are. And I would encourage you to have a stop at least every hour, hour and a half for fuel. And you also need to consider the people with you that might need to use the restroom. Okay, so if you're one of those ride leaders that just gets lost listening to their music or whatever and wants to ride for 5 or 6 hours at a time, you probably don't need to be a ride leader. That is not what a leader does. A leader considers the people that are with them and want to make sure that their needs are met, not just your own. And you need to make sure that those people are going to be able to get fuel when they need it. You're going to need to make appropriate bathroom stops. When you make a stop somewhere, don't make it out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, sometimes the routes you're on, that's just the way it goes. You're going to be out in the middle of nowhere. But as best as you can, try to plan at least, if it's a 3 or 4 hour ride, at least a couple of stops. And make those stops somewhere where there's fuel and where there's a restroom and where there's a chance for people to get food. Now, I know there's people out there that, you know, they're on a budget, they're going to pack a sandwich, and it could be you as the ride leader. You have no plans on stopping at a restaurant to eat, that kind of thing. But that may not be true for everybody on your ride. And I'm a diabetic, for example. So when I go on a ride, I'd like to stop and get something to eat, and it's more than a bag lunch. Now, it's okay to tell people you need to bring a bag lunch, but you still need to be stopping for fuel. You still need to be stopping for bathroom breaks. So you need to keep those things in mind. If you communicate to people, hey, look, we're not going to stop at a restaurant, then stop and give them a chance to get something to eat, to go to the bathroom, and get some fuel at the very minimum. I have talked over and over, and I know this kind of sounds like I'm being preachy here. It's for a purpose, okay? And the reason I'm even doing this video is because I have been on numerous rides over the last year or so with ride leaders that have no clue what it means to lead a ride, sorry. And frankly, it makes me want to bail on these groups, honestly. And I know there's other people that have ridden with me with some of these groups that feel the exact same way. So yeah, I'm talking to you. If you're a ride leader in any motorcycle riding group, you may potentially be doing these things, maybe unintentionally doing these things to the people that you ride with. You really need to take a moment and you really need to consider those that are riding with you and not just your own needs. If you want to go out and ride all day and never make a stop, you know what? Get on your dang bike and go for a ride. But if you're going to lead a group of people, everybody has different needs. You need to keep those persons that are behind you, you need to keep their needs in mind. And I have talked to several ride leaders that tend to ride a lot faster than they need to. I was just on a ride a few days ago. I found myself doing 65 and 70 and a 55 just to keep up with the group. And I'm telling you that that's just dangerous. First of all, there's no reason for it. It's inconsiderate. Now, just because you're the biggest, excuse my French, badass on a motorcycle, doesn't mean you have to be a badass on the motorcycle if you're leading a group. Are you hearing me? If you're leading a group, you need to be considerate of the people that are with you. Plain and simple. Okay, so we've talked about safety. We've talked about, plan that ride it before you go on it if you can. That's not always possible. We've talked about setting a good pace, and I want to get back to that just for a second. So I have been on rides where the ride leader was just setting a hell of a pace. I mean, I'm a good rider. I think most people would say I'm a pretty fast rider and can be. But I feel like I'm pushing myself to the limit sometimes behind these folks. And I have talked in the middle of a ride to a ride leader and said, look, man, you've got to slow down. You gotta give the people behind you an opportunity to stay up with you. They're going to try to anyway. And that person would say, oh, yeah. Thanks for the reminder. I didn't mean to do that. And we get going down the road after a stop. And maybe 4 or 5 miles down the road, they take off again. They get lost in their own little world. They got their earbuds in, jamming out to some great tunes. And they forget that there's a group of people behind them trying to keep up with them. You cannot do that and call yourself a ride leader. That is not how a leader operates. Now, I will say that you're going to have some riders that are inexperienced and slow, and that's fine. And you need to tell those folks, you need to drill it into their heads, hey, look, if you're inexperienced, if you can't keep up with traffic, if you can't ride up to the speed limit at least, then we want you to know as a group, you're welcome to come on the rides with us. Don't feel like you have to keep up with us. When we come to a turn, we'll make sure that someone waits on you at that turn so you'll know which direction the group went. And you may even want to break your group up into different parts. You may want to have fast guys out front, and then guys that are kind of medium speed in another group, and then have a group of inexperienced or slower riders, leading the last bit of it. That might mean that you need to coordinate with 2 or 3 other ride leaders that understand the route and can lead these separate groups. And you shouldn't always put it on the same person to lead the slow group or the fast group. You should mix it up and give everybody a chance to be a part of a different part of the group. Anyway, sorry this is such a long video. It's over 13 minutes now. But this is something that's near and dear to my heart, something I want to pass along, something I feel like is necessary. I hate that I have to put a video like this together, and I feel like I'm preaching a little bit here, but it's for a purpose. We want to promote safety in our favorite activity. Riding a motorcycle is a great way to get out and relax, make new friends, see beautiful country all around us. But it doesn't have to be at breakneck speeds. It doesn't have to be at the cost of someone running out of gas, or having an issue and needing to get to a bathroom and your route doesn't go by any bathrooms anywhere, or someone not being able to eat that needs to eat. You need to keep in mind everybody that's with you and what their needs are, or you're really not a leader. That's not how a leader operates. You want to lead by example. You want to set an example, and you want to make sure everybody gets to enjoy the day out with a group of people and get home safely. And that's really the biggest reason that I'm coming to you with this video. Take it for what it is. If you're insulted by this, you hate me because I'm saying what I'm saying, fine. Then you just have to hate on me. But you people that know me, y'all that have ridden with me before, you know how I am. You know where my heart is. I love sharing the ride with other people. And I want it to be something enjoyable for everybody. Not just the ride leaders, not just the people who like to go fast. Maybe it might be a time for you to think about starting your own group of Go Fast Riders or something like that. If you just can't abide by these things, you know, or riders that don't stop to pee, or riders that don't stop to eat, whatever you want to call your group. But don't call it a motorcycle riding group and open it up to everybody if you're not going to be considerate of those people that ride with you. Lastly, I'm going to say this too. So our local groups around here, we're all in different cities. So in our area, we've got people in Brevard, Hendersonville, Mills River, Asheville, Montreat. Also ride with some people that are down in Charlotte and places like that. But these local groups around here, a lot of times the ride leader starts the ride right at their home. I mean, you know, like 15, 20 minutes from their home. And that's fine to do that occasionally. But if you're going to call yourself a ride leader, you need to look at where the members of your group are located and try to plan starting your ride somewhere that is convenient for the majority of people, not just you. So that might be in our area, Mills River or Hendersonville, or somewhere in Asheville, maybe southwest Asheville, but not over in some corner of your county just because it's 10 or 15 minutes from your doorstep. That's not being very considerate. Anyway, sorry about the preaching. I hope you find this to be helpful for you as you start planning rides. If you have questions or comments, I invite you to leave those below and I'll answer those as I can. I'm going to share this video on my riding group pages, people I've ridden with before, just as a little reminder to those people who want to be ride leaders, what it really means to be a ride leader and what things you need to keep in mind. Anyway, be safe out there. Have fun. Enjoy motorcycles.